Chaucer's characters can be emulated and some can be despised. You must be able to find out which are the characters who are supposed to be emulated and for what reason. And who are those characters who are supposed to be despised and for what reason in both the general prologue and the merchant's prologue and tale. I will begin with characters who are supposed to be emulated. First, we have the knight. He can be emulated for his dedication to his job. We have been told that he has fought in so many battles. He is a brave soldier. He has fought 14 mortal battles and won all. In the course of the wars that he has fought in many places, after the defeat, he has sat at the head of the table, occupying a high position during negotiations. We are also emulating him for his humility. He's as simple as a maid. He has never spoken a bad word to anyone all his life. He has just left the battlefield, and without any change of clothes, he is taking the journey. We are also emulating him for his love, for his son. He does not want to go to the pilgrimage all alone. He's taking his son with him. And lastly, for the fear of God. He's going straight to the pilgrimage to give thanks for God for saving him through the many battles in which he has been engaged in all his life. Secondly, we have the person. We are emulating him for his holiness and spirituality. Though he is poor in his pocket, he is rich in spirit. He knows the word, preaches it, and he himself sets the example. He says, if gold can rust, what then will iron do? We are also emulating him for his generosity. He does not force his Christians to give offerings or pay tithes. Instead, he shares with them his Easter gifts. We are also emulating him for his unmaterialistic nature. He is interested in the salvation of his Christians. He is contented with being in the countryside. He is contented to being a shepherd to a flock that he wants to lead to salvation. No wonder he's not interested about going to London to belong to a fraternity or to say masses or reach there where he would make money. He would prefer to go and look for the one lost sheep and bring it back to the fold. We are also emulating him for his impartiality. He treats everyone in the parish equal. No matter how large the parish is, he visits them in sickness and in good health, the old and the young. He moves from the rich to the poor, be it in the rain or under the sun. Thirdly, a character that is to be emulated is the Oxford student for his dedication to studies. Whatever money that is given to him, he does not buy clothes. He does not buy food. He buys books. And he has many of them. We also will be emulating him for his lack of interest for material things. He's not interested in having a job, neither in the church or in the secular world. We are also emulating him for his generosity. When he reads from the books that he has bought, he shares the knowledge with his friends. We are also emulating him for his show of gratitude. Remember that his friends give him money, which he pays his tuition and buys books. And after that, he thanks them. He lacks worldly tendencies. Whatever comes out of his mouth is full of moral virtue. And therefore we are emulating him for his moral uprightness. In addition, we have the Franklin. Although he is described from the beginning as being one of worldly and pleasurable attitude, but his pleasurable attitude is inoffensive, is evil-less, has no evil attached to it. We are emulating him for his generosity. A generous man whose house is opened, with a table laid with food all day long for whoever wants to come in and have his stomach full of good food. We have the plowman, whom we emulate for his hard work. He gets up very early in the morning, goes to his farm to work. He finishes his work so fast and helps his neighbors without collecting a dime, highlighting generosity. We also emulating him for the love for his neighbors and his piousness, for we are told that he loved his neighbors as he loved himself, and he pays his tithes regularly. In the Merchant's Tale, we will emulate a character like January, who is full of love. When he picks his wife, he showers her with a lot of love. He is generous. He gives her property to her name, gives her a place in society, keeps her comfortable in the beautiful house, highlighting generosity. He's also full of gratitude because he appreciates the services that are being rendered to him by Damien. That when he learns that Damien is sick, he orders his wife to go and visit him in his room and comfort him. He's loving and caring. Lastly, we should also emulate women such as Abigail and Esther, who are mentioned allusively for giving good pieces of advice for their husbands. Because women naturally are supposed to be a blessing, not just a reward from God, a blessing. They can give their husbands good advice. They can take care of them when they are sick, etc., etc. They can pray for them so that nothing bad happens to them. There are also characters that can be despised. And we'll begin with the general prologue. The wife of Bath can be despised for her hypocrisy. She uses the church as a catwalk to expose her beautiful features and her new dresses. She refuses to go to the offertory if a woman does so before her. We are also despising her for her extravagance. She dresses in tight-fitting dresses, and her dresses are too loud. We also despise her for her boldness to speak freely in the presence of men, in a society at the time when women did not have the same equality with men. We despise her also for her pleasurable life, as she's been a woman who has traveled around Europe. She has been to the Holy Land 3 times. She has been to many other places and crossed many rivers. This journey, this pilgrimage, is just one of those pleasurable trips that she is taking. And we despise her for her promiscuity. Having knocked 5 husbands, she might be looking for the 6th. And she has had a long list of lovers in her youthful life. The prowess is worldly. She behaves courtly at table, which is rehearsed, not natural. She is hypocritical, as she prefers to take care of animals and human beings, and materialistic. Instead of being simple, she owns she has a golden chain. We are despising the merchant for being so proud, vain, speaking so much about himself and the success in his business. But we later find out that he is heavily in debt, which highlights dishonesty and hypocrisy. We can therefore conclude that he is taking the pilgrimage to run away from his creditors. The miller is immoral, violent, a cheat. He charges the poor farmers 3 times more than the normal price for grinding grain. And he also steals corn from them. He said he's dishonest, he's materialistic. He might be taking this journey to enjoy part of the money which he has stolen from the poor farmers. In the general prologue, in the merchant's tale, we can despise May for her hypocrisy, claiming that she loves her husband. Yet the next minute when her husband is blind, she falls head and shoulders in love with his servant. And she tells him she will love him more than anything she has ever loved. She's ready to duplicate a key into their garden of love. She flirts with her husband's servant under his roof. She meets him up in the tree, and when caught, she gives a false excuse of trying to help her husband to regain her sight, highlighting hypocrisy and infidelity. We can despise Damian for being so ungrateful to a man who treats him with a lot of love and care and respect, that he should lust after his wife and want to have her, sneak into his garden of love, climb up the tree waiting for her, that he will have her there, highlighting lust and hypocrisy. You can be asked a question. If you were about to go to the pilgrimage, who are the crooks that you would want to associate yourself with? These are the characters you are going to use. The merchant, for speaking so much about himself, whereas he's in debt. The friar, for taking money for every little thing that he does, whether it is confession or whether it is settling dispute. The thief, for cheating on his young master whom he had served since when he was a youth, and for stealing from him, borrowing him money, and using part of his master's money to build a beautiful house for himself, which is hidden in the forest. The summoner, who asks young people to commit sin and fornicate and give him bribe, so that they will not be convoked to meet the archdeacons. The miller, for cheating the farmers by stealing their grain and for asking them to pay 3 times the price meant for grinding corn. The ship captain, for stealing wine from the merchant while he is asleep. The pardoner, singing extremely well, not because he wants to praise God, but because he wants money to be given to him. And Damian, for his lustful nature and for pretending to be sick, whereas he is in love with his master's wife. They could ask you another question. If you were to take the trip for pleasure, which are the characters you will associate yourself with? These are the characters you are going to use. The franklin, because he lives entirely on pleasure. Everything in his house is in abundance. The wife of Bath, because she's a woman who loves traveling. She has traveled round Europe to the Holy Land and crossed many rivers. The 5 guildsmen who have made money and are undertaking this journey to enjoy part of the wealth that they have just made. And this is the reason why they take a cook with them. The monk, who does not like to stay in the monastery and pray, and prefers to jump over fences and hunt. And finally, January, whom before he decides to get married, has spent his time fornicating around and enjoying his wealth. They could ask you, if you were to choose to live a worldly life, who are the characters you are going to use? You are still going to use the prowess, the wife of Bath, the summoner, and January. And lastly, if the questions were, you are about to take the pilgrimage and you want to associate with characters who fear God, who are those characters we are going to use. The knight who decides to go to the pilgrimage to thank God for saving his life through the many battles that he has fought. The person who is dedicated to the salvation of his Christian and for spreading the gospel, and who is full of generosity and holiness. The plowman who is a true Christian, who loves his neighbors as he loves himself, and who pays his tithes regularly. The Oxford student who is full of gratitude and generosity towards those who help him to pay for his school. And lastly, January, who does not want to continue fornicating and to live in sin, and prefers to get married despite his advanced age, so that he might live a life that is pleasing to God and he may find salvation in heaven. Thank you for listening. Share the video and the link to your friends. God bless you. Bye-bye.